Hello, listeners. This is Yogesh Patgaonkar, and you are listening to the CHRO Mindset podcast.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the season 3 of the CHRO Mindset podcast. Following an amazing first 2 seasons, we are returning with even more engaging discussions and practical takeaways. And the topic for today's podcast episode is it's going to be the credible CHRO, building trust through philosophy, storytelling, and walking the talk. This is one topic that we haven't touched ever in entire series of 50 plus episodes that we have done so far. Today we have Mr. Yogesh Patgaonkar who has joined us. Yogesh Patgaonkar is a seasoned HR leader, business executive, and coach with over 3 decades of experience, spanning roles as CHRO, P&L leader, consultant, and facilitator. He holds a master's degree in human resources from NMIMS and was honored with the prestigious Distinguished Alumnus Award 2025 by his alma mater for his outstanding contribution to the industry. In addition, he's credentialed as the Master Certified Coach (MCC) by the International Coaching Federation, an achievement earned by less than 5% of ICF credentialed coaches globally. In his most recent corporate role, Yogesh served as the Chief People Officer at Persistent Systems, one of India's fastest growing IT services firms with a market capitalization of nearly USD 10 billion. Under his leadership, Persistent achieved industry-leading retention, won the highest number of awards at the Economic Times Human Capital Awards 2025, and set 3 Guinness World Records in employee engagement. Wow. Prior to this, Yogesh has held CHRO positions at L&T Technology Services and Zensar Technologies. At Zensar, under his HR leadership, the company broke into DataQuest's top 10 preferred employers list for the first time, alongside achieving best-in-class retention and engagement scores. Beyond HR leadership, Yogesh has successfully led business operations as P&L head for India, Middle East, and Africa at Zensar's IT business. He steered the region to four-fold revenue increase over 3 years while sustaining healthy profitability. An accomplished coach with more than 3,000 hours of coaching experience, Yogesh has worked with global and Indian organizations, including World Health Organization, John Deere, Bacardi, Reliance, Vodafone, L&T, SKF, and Barclays, and many others. His facilitation expertise spans leadership development and addressing strategic challenges for large conglomerates, mid-sized enterprises, and founder-led companies. Outside his corporate and consulting career, Yogesh has contributed to academia as member of advisory boards and boards of studies at leading management institutes. And interestingly, he's also a published Marathi poet with his collection Chimney, receiving recognition. A self-proclaimed nomad and driving enthusiast, he has undertaken extensive road expeditions across India from Ladakh to Kanyakumari. Wow. Yogesh sir, that was amazing. Wonderful to have you join us on the CHRO Mindset podcast today.
Thank you so much, Pulkar. It's incredibly kind of you to give this kind of an introduction. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So before we start, I just want to give the audience a gist of what we're going to cover today. So in today's episode, we'll explore the true cornerstone of HR leadership, which is credibility. Beyond frameworks and playbooks, it is a leader's philosophy and the way it is lived every day that determines whether employees and CEOs place their trust in the CHRO or not. We'll also discuss why storytelling is inseparable from the leadership credibility, what kinds of narratives resonate most with today's workforce, and how consistency in small actions builds the foundation for trust in high stakes moments. The conversation that we're going to get into will also tackle difficult questions, balancing confidentiality with transparency, navigating tensions between CEOs' expectations and employee trust, and sustaining credibility in an era where AI and data shape people decisions. Ultimately, we'll also ask whether credibility will be the defining trait that separates good CHROs from the great ones in the decade ahead, and what timeless principles can guide leadership in earning it. So, with that, let's start off with an icebreaker question, Yogesh sir. Looking back, what was the first leadership moment in your career where you realized trust was everything?
Interesting. So, very early in life, I must say, about say maybe 25 years back or something, I was sent abroad to a country to negotiate compensation with the people who are based there. And they were on a combination of, as in IT industry those days, Indian salary and tax-free allowance in that country. And I was to go there and negotiate salaries and get them on the local compensation, which was not exactly financially beneficial to them. Okay, and they were living in that country. They knew the cost of the newspapers onwards, everything. I was first time visiting that country, and I was going to be there only for 3 days or 4 days. My job was to go negotiate and get them on our pay scale or whatever the salary structure budget was given to me. And people were laughing behind my back, saying that it was almost like a fun thing they were observing, saying that no, I mean, I don't think anybody is going to agree. I said, okay, let me
Hmm.
go there. And as usual, we had a intense discussions, dialogues. I heard some tantrums, all that happened. Cutting a
Hmm.
long story short, at the end of 2 days, everybody came on the compensation grid and, in the budget which were given. And
Hmm.
later on, they told me, we always knew we don't like it. I mean, obviously we don't like it, but we also knew that you would not, uh, cheat on us. You would not betray us. You would not do something unfair.
Hmm.
And the luck that I had was that when these people were in India, I had gone on a trek, overnight trek with them. I mean, it's just a luck factor. So we knew each other at least. And the sentence which they said stayed with me, saying that, yeah, we don't like it. I mean, we would have preferred the earlier model, but if you are proposing it and if you say that this is how we have to go about it, one thing we know that you would be doing something fair. You wouldn't cheat us, and that's why they signed. And it it was a it was very touching for them to
Hmm.
say that,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that just reinforced the fact that I always believe that trust is at the base of everything else. I mean, if you people trust you, yeah,
Hmm.
some of the things that you decide they may not like, some of the
Yeah.
things that your decisions may not be liked, but they would never feel bitter about you.
Hmm.
There's a difference between feeling bad and feeling bitter, and the difference is a trust or lack of it.
Okay, interesting. What a story. So trust is the one which I would say uh, becomes the barrier between bad and better, right? Situational wise. But thanks for sharing that story. Yeah. So let's get into the core theme, right? Which is about building credibility as a CHRO. So we have seen. I mean, I've had the personal fortune of speaking to CHROs who have built playbooks, best practices, and everything. That helps them become better at their craft. Okay, but rarely have I seen anyone talk about a personal philosophy, right, as a CHRO. Which leads me to the next question, which is why do you believe CHROs need a personal philosophy beyond policies, playbooks, best practices, frameworks, etc., etc.?
Policies, processes, best practices, frameworks are essential for scaling the business and scaling the organization. No two ways about it. It
Yeah.
takes the anxiety of taking a daily decision when you have policies, best practices, frameworks. So that's a given.
Hmm.
But the world that we are living, which is uncertain and complex and ambiguous, what happens is that not everything would get covered by a policy or a framework or a precedent in the past. And at that point of time, if you forget CHRO, as any leader, if you have to take a decision, if you have a personal philosophy which you believe in, the chances are very high that you would do the right thing rather than doing what is convenient. Okay, so
Hmm.
and the philosophy by mean is that your philosophy should be so simple that it can be explained in one sentence and it does
Hmm.
not need explanation, and that should be your deep belief. And if you have that, it guides you like a north star in the situations which do not have a policy to back it, framework to back it, or a precedent.
Awesome. Now, this leads me to my next question, sir. Uh, when we say, and you put it very succinctly when you said that policy should be very simple, it should be North Star, it should be something which should possibly not be more than 10 or 11 words, right? But what are the elements that make an HR philosophy credible in the eyes of both employees and CEOs? So, on one side of the house, you have a philosophy in place, but I think on the other side, it's also about walking the talk or maybe communicating to a wider audience what it means to them.
No, I think you answered your question. It's more about walking the talk. I mean, if you have a philosophy,
Hmm.
it should be felt by people through your actions and not through your talks. Okay,
Hmm.
I'll give
Hmm.
you my guiding principle is that it's very simple philosophy that has guided me throughout my life. Uh, People mean good. Okay,
Hmm.
that's a very simple philosophical statement that's guided me throughout my life. Now, you will disagree, you will have arguments, you will have, you would argue, you may not agree, there may be some bitter fights also, but at the base of it, when you have this philosophy that people mean good, you would never make a villain out of them. You would always look out for taking the conversations forward. You would not
Hmm.
do the blame game. And you are
Hmm.
always open for a conversation. Now, if my philosophy is that people mean good and I'm not open for a conversation, then that philosophy has no meaning. So,
Hmm.
a philosophy, policy, process that you can walk the talk is the only thing which is credible. People should sense it rather than you saying it. I mean, that's about it.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think that was the bottom line. People should sense it. I think that's the beauty of it. And of course, uh, I totally agree with you. Everyone has disagreements, arguments, fights, and all of that. But at the end of the day, everyone has to come together and find a solution to a problem, which in entirety benefits everyone, right? So that's the beauty of it. Now, coming to another nuance of building leadership credibility, and we have been hearing about this from so many years eras, but I would love to know your take on why is storytelling such a critical part of leadership credibility.
So I'll tell you a story to tell you why storytelling is important. Okay, I'll give you an
Please.
analogy. I'll tell you what a story is. So if you look at the medical world and whatever little I understand, story is to my mind is like a capsule. Okay. Now what happens is that capsule is a delivery mechanism in the drug industry. The drug
Hmm.
which is there inside the capsule is extremely bitter, and your tongue will repel that drug if it is not taken inside a capsule. So what does a capsule do? Capsule takes that drug past your tongue, which has a taste buds, and it lands it into your body for the medicine to take effect. So
Hmm.
if you have a message which should be reaching people, they shouldn't be repelling it right in the beginning. So capsule provides that safety. Similarly, story provides that safety. Story gives a message without offending anybody. Just like a capsule takes a drug beyond the tongue, which has a test buds, and it does its job. Then the capsule is dissolved and the drug takes its effect. Similarly, a message given through story helps you
Hmm.
avoid the initial resistance, especially if the
Hmm.
message is not what people are expecting and things like that. And storytelling does not mean uh, you
Hmm.
know telling something which is not truth. Storytelling actually is authentic. Storytelling is just a
Hmm.
way, a form of communication where you are
Hmm.
sensitive to others sensibilities and sensitivities and give a message in a way which is palatable to them, and that takes effect. Your entire purpose to give that message is not to prove somebody good or bad. The message is to have some corrective action, so have some message given which needs to be implemented. And
Hmm.
stories avoid animosity. Stories
Hmm.
avoid. So stories is like that capsule. It is a delivery mechanism. It just takes you past the initial resistance and lands in a safe space where the impact can be there. I hope it makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even, in the marketing side of the house, the world that we operate in, we also believe that the reason why stories work is because there cannot be an objection to story because our as humans are we are always wired right from childhood to hear to stories, right? The next thing is tell me more,
Yes.
whether it's a
Yeah.
dadi maa ki story or a nani maa ki story, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's how we
I,
we all are. We have grown up. Yeah, sorry, you're saying something, sir,
Pulkit,
please.
you're so right, and people remember stories easily. Sometimes the
Yeah,
concept can be forgotten, but people remember
yeah,
stories. So what you said is
yeah,
absolutely right. We all remember our
yeah,
childhood stories. So
yeah,
similarly, when something is told in a storytelling format, A, it avoids the initial resistance if there is anything,
mhm,
and B, the chances of the message sticking with the people is much better when it is told
yeah.
through the story.
Wonderful. So let's double click again on this aspect. So please walk us through what kind of stories resonate most with employees today. Basis what you would have seen. I mean, some categories could be success stories or failure stories or values delivered through stories. How has been your experience?
The simple answer to your question is honest stories work.
Okay.
Okay. And the stories which convey your feelings with vulnerability are the stories that work.
Hmm.
Stories which are bombastic about how I succeeded in the past,
Hmm.
people get put off in my mind beyond a point.
Hmm.
Okay. And we all have, including me, have a natural tendency to tell our own success stories. But what happens is that if you have a purpose for which you are telling a story being told with vulnerability, with your own genuine feelings, and an honest story is what something lands extremely well.
So three dimensions as I see. One is it should be honest. Second, it should have an element of vulnerability, right? And it should be something which is uh, uh, narrated with a genuine intent. Okay, so those becomes. It doesn't really matter, right? Whether it's about success, failure, or whatever, right? But you do agree
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, it doesn't matter.
being
It
too
doesn't matter.
bombastic about one success makes the other person maybe feel little complex, and those are the ones that
Yeah,
don't work as
yeah.
effectively as the other ones. Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
Interesting.
in fact, Pulkit, I never had this question asked to me before. So, as you were speaking, what other thing came to my mind is that if you share your struggles very openly,
Uh-huh.
those stories actually stick well with people
Yeah.
rather than the
Yeah.
stories of your success or something.
Yeah.
The stories where you explain your struggle, past and present, and your stories at the end which ask for a call of action or a help, those are the
Yeah.
stories which have a maximum impact in my mind, actually.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And please walk us through what is the connection between consistency in small action and credibility in high stakes moments. We are taking a detour here from storytelling aspect, but we spoke of walk the talk, right, and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of that.
actually, it's a small action which give away how you behave in the normal day-to-day chores and the regular activities is what actually defines who you are. People are not really listening to your presentations or your statements. They are just observing you.
Hmm.
And I have done this very simple childish exercise with many people. There are adults and there are leaders all across the world in the room, and I always ask them to do this.
Hmm.
You hold your hands like this, and now put them on your nose. And while
Hmm.
say I say that put them on a nose, I put it here.
Hmm.
80 to 90% of the audience just follows the action that I'm following and not the instruction that I've given. It's a simple
Hmm.
exercise to just drive on a point.
Hmm.
The story
Hmm.
behind this, there's a very interesting story, and I learned it in a very interesting way. There was a
Hmm.
customer which we had acquired through an acquired company, and I was in my sales job that time.
Okay.
The customer partner, the client partner had told me, Yogesh, you want to visit that customer, but that customer is going to give you a tough time because he always bashes us up and we always have a terrible time when we visit them. I said, no, no, but it's a customer I have to go and visit because we have now acquired the customer. So I went to
Hmm.
that person, and somehow that person was very nice to me. So we discussed books, literature, everything. And at the end of an hour, he actually told me how should I write a proposal. He also told me what should be my gross margin, and I walked out. And the
Hmm.
person, the client partner who was accompanying me, she was very surprised. She said she burst out laughing. She said, if I say this to my colleagues, they wouldn't believe it. What happened? I said, I don't know, but I mean, he was nice. So I did not feel the pressure. And later on, a few years later, when this person was retiring, he called me as his last visitor in his visitor's book. He says that, I like you, so why don't you come and visit? So by then I had moved on from my role, but I still went there to respect him. And then I asked
Hmm.
him, sir, can I ask you something? Now, today is your last day in a corporate world. You have a fearsome reputation amongst my colleagues, but you were very nice to me. So what happened?
Hmm.
So he told me something very nice. He says, sometimes you consulting people, I feel you think yourself extra smart and you think we are stupid. So I always give a tough time. But when you came, it was a little different. So Pulkit, he had offered me the tea. It was a manufacturing company. They had offered me the tea in those
Hmm.
small plastic cups. And he was an elderly
Hmm.
person.
Okay.
Just as I finished my tea, along with my teacup, I picked up his teacup and put it in the dustbin. He says, "Do you remember that when I offered you the tea, you actually picked up my teacup along with yours and put it?" And that time I thought this boy is not arrogant like other consulting people. He actually is rooted, and I decided to help you. And believe
Hmm.
me, Pulkit, I had a tough time not falling off from my chair. I said, if this kind of thing turns around a customer from a nasty one to this thing, and to my mind, A, I'm incredibly grateful to him for sharing this very openly with me.
Yeah.
B, that was a reinforcement saying that, okay, if respect is your value, if you really genuinely respect people, Does it show in your behavior,
Hmm.
day to day, normal, simple actions that you actually respect, or is your language very polite, but actually your actions are
Hmm.
incongruent to the language? The way you look, the way you talk, the way you behave, and if that is incongruent to a, a polite language, people see through it. And what hits is what you act, not what you speak. And that was the biggest lesson. And I did not do it consciously. We are brought up in a typical Indian culture where you respect the age as a matter of respect, not as a
Yeah.
again. Just as I would have done it at my home, I picked up my cup and I his cup to dispose it. It was not some strategy or something. In fact, I
Yeah.
did not even know, and I always was intrigued. Why was
Yeah.
he so nice to me always when he's so nasty to my earlier colleagues? And
Hmm.
to my mind, I hope this answers your question. So it's about small
Yeah.
things that you do in a daily life which define who you are, not about your posts, not about your philosophical statements, never about your presentations.
Yeah, yeah. No, thanks for sharing that moment and story. It definitely moved me, and I think speaks a lot about your personality as well, right? How grounded and humble you have been. And I think these are the little things.
I'm little conscious, Pulkit, that am I boasting while telling all these stories? That is my only conscious. I'm getting little conscious on that, but
No, I,
it's
no,
okay.
I,
I mean, the intent is good.
Yeah, yeah, I think, and again, I'm not patronizing here. I think we need more leaders like you in the world that we currently live in. Uh, but that said, let's segue to our next question, right? Uh, Similar to how Arjuna, was in the battlefield in Mahabharata, uh, there are situations when, CHROs have to balance out confidentiality with transparency, especially when their credibility is on the line. So, how should they deal with such situations? What is your advice?
It's very simple, actually. To my mind, it's very simple. Transparency is always a leading factor.
Hmm.
Okay. So if something is confidential and is not to be shared with anybody, you spell it out right up front.
Hmm.
I'll give you a very simple example. In most of the organizations, say for example, the promotion recommendations, for a want of better word, are confidential because they go through a kind of approvals and things like that. Now, managers, as a manager, I can tell my person, hey, I'm trying to promote you. You are not supposed to say, for example, because it has to go through reviews, some criteria, and all those things. Now,
Hmm.
there's a conflict between transparency and confidentiality. But if there is a policy which says that this is supposed to be confidential because it has to go through some reviews, it's not that people have not asked me, you are a
Hmm.
CHRO, now tell me whether I'm getting promoted or not. I've found it very simple to answer, saying that, hey, listen, you know the policy. I'm not supposed to discuss this with you, and I'm saying this very transparently to you.
Hmm.
And it's very simple. If you take transparency as a lead value, then you lay down the boundaries very clearly. The communication is very simple, very clear. The boundaries are drawn. Again, I will say, people may feel bad, but they will never feel bitter. Because if you beat around the bush,
Yeah.
they see through it. Instead of that,
Hmm.
say it out. I'm not supposed to share this with you. And that people actually respect that much better. Again, my two bit is that there's a difference between bad and bitter. People still may feel bad that you did not share, but they will not feel bitter
Yeah.
saying that, oh, you misled me
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah. No, I've actually fallen in love with that framework, bad versus bitter, that you spoke of. This is the second time I'm hearing that. But absolute, it's a gem of a framework, how to think about situations which are very tricky. Let's get on to our next question, sir. How do you navigate when CEOs' expectations conflict with HR's credibility with employees?
I have been a CHRO for 3 decades. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't see a single incident where CEO's decisions conflict the credibility of HR. What we are talking out here is that there are some business decisions which may not go down well with people.
Hmm.
But again, if you
Hmm.
take time out to explain out to people and tell
Hmm.
them what has happened, what are the criteria, and be transparent. Again, transparency is the lead value. If you
Hmm.
articulate it to people extremely transparently, there's no harm to your credibility. I'll give you a very simple example. Early part of my life as a CHRO, we had decided to do a fast track kind of a scheme in one of my companies. So there was a lot of excitement in the company, and a lot of people applied, and they went
Hmm.
through those lines of assessment. And we had also said that we
Hmm.
will not dilute this process. Okay, and the CEO was very clear that
Hmm.
I'm not going to dilute this process. And unfortunately,
Hmm.
after so much of an enthusiasm, I had to go back
Hmm.
in a room full of 60 people and tell them that actually none of them have made the cut. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, and the CEO was very clear, boss, I'm not going to dilute my, because this fast track is meant for this thing. And if people have not cut, go out and tell them about that. I said, okay. And that's fair. That's
Hmm.
fair from an organization point of view, fair from a people point of view. The beauty
Hmm.
is that I went and talked to them saying that these were the criteria, this is what has happened. I'm also,
Hmm.
again, I was also crestfallen. I was also feeling extremely sad. I said, it is not only 60 that are feeling sad in this room. There's a 61 who was feeling sad in this room because I was really looking forward to this scheme working.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
And these are not what, believe me, of course, people felt sad. There's no two ways about it. But those people who reached out to me later on in life after 5 years, 10 years, they always used to, with pride, tell me, do you know I'm the finalist of that scheme? You
Hmm.
remember? And that was a turning point in my life. So now this was a typical situation where I could have fought with the CEO saying that, no, no, if you have gone through all these kind of rounds and there are 60 people now waiting to hear the result, I think we should just at least, give 5 success stories or 5 wins or tens or something. And he was very, very clear. He says, so we will not deviate from the principle because then we will dilute it and we will actually perpetuate mediocrity. I did not
Hmm.
like his decision. Okay, but when I
Hmm.
listened to him carefully, that's why again, go back to your own personal philosophy. I did not doubt him. He can't be
Hmm.
meaning bad. He just was holding me honest, actually, and that was a difficult situation. So you go out, have transparency as a tool to communicate, and there's never a harm to your credibility. It's
Wonderful.
absolutely no harm.
Yeah, wonderful. I think it reminds me that life is simple. It's only that we make it complex. I think that applies to corporate world as well. Things can be very simple, but it's just that
Well said.
we make it very complex,
Yeah,
right? Uh,
yeah.
Wonderful. Moving on, let's segue into AI, right? There's a lot of talk about AI, not just in HR, even in our part of the world, in marketing, sales. Continue to hear a lot of great things that AI is able to deliver. But my next question for you is, with AI and data shaping HR, in your opinion, how can CHROs build trust when algorithms enter people decisions?
The underlying principle is that there's a conflict and there's none. Okay, because when your
Hmm.
decisions are based on data, they are
Hmm.
always fair decisions. So actually, it's very helpful. Today,
Okay.
the technology helps you to take much better decisions because the data processing capacities are higher. The algorithms can really, help you with the complex kind of situations. And to my mind, these are phenomenal tools to promote transparency, promote fair decisions. So there is no
Yeah.
conflict out there. Okay.
Okay.
In fact, people will get more time for people because the grunt work can be done by technology. So if you look
Yeah.
at it that way, it's all good. And every time a new technology has come, it was always seen as a threat to this thing, but it has never been.
Wonderful. No, I totally agree with you. Now let's get to the last question of this entire theme, sir. Uh, and we started with credibility, right, when we began the topic and the episode. So there are good CHROs and then there are great CHROs, right? Do you think that credibility will become the ultimate differentiator between a good and a great CHROs in the next decade? I know it's not going to happen in a year or so, but your take on that, please.
It was always.
Hmm.
It is
Hmm.
nothing new. Credibility is it's a people function.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a credibility, you don't have a start actually.
Hmm.
You can go some distance, but you will falter over a period of time. So unless you have a credibility, it's actually a non-starter without credibility. Credibility is the base of everything that you do in this function and many leadership functions.
Okay. I hear you. Uh, Now let's segue into our rapid fire section, sir, where I'm going to ask you short questions and expecting short answers. But in case you want to elaborate on any one question, absolutely, that also works. So let me start with our first rapid fire question. One word that defines a credible CHRO.
Trust,
Awesome. Biggest credibility killer in HR.
not walking the talk.
Okay. A book that shaped your philosophy as a leader.
Actually, many. It's difficult to point one, but the favorite one is Team of Rivals.
Team
It
of
is
rivals.
written on Abraham Lincoln's leadership style, where his rivals actually became. He used the strengths of his rivals also to build a very strong team. So that's a incredible one.
Any other books, sir? You said you have two or three in mind. Would love to know them, those also
No,
for
no,
the benefit of audience.
multiple, multiple. So there is a very, very different book written by uh, uh, on called Elephant Whisperer by somebody who was in South Africa. How he really found a peace with the wild elephants. Now that book is a classic about vulnerability. If you really
Okay.
ask me, this is a superb lesson on vulnerability.
Okay.
Then, if you really look at the book, which is American Icon, which is written on the uh, turnaround of Ford, it's an amazing story how somebody who is perceived as an industry outsider comes and through the culture, focusing on culture, actually turns out a company which people thought had no hope for turning around. So
Hmm.
these are multiple. I mean, I can go on and on, and
Yeah. Yeah.
books is
Yeah.
something which I can
Yeah.
take steal the whole time of rapid fire. So let me stop here.
Yeah. 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 That's evident from that large bookshelf, right? Which is partially filled, you told me. But awesome. Thanks for sharing those awesome books. I haven't heard of them ever. So it's the first time. But yeah, I'm going to make sure that I add that to my reading list. The boldest HR decision you have ever made that paid off, sir?
I don't know, bold or something, but the decision, I will tell you a decision which makes you feel very awkward. I mean, I'm just terming that as a bold. Once I had to, I mean, we were letting go people, unfortunately. It's
Oh,
about
okay.
2.5 decades back. And after letting go of four of the people, I realized that we have let go wrong people. And I went and told my boss. So my boss started to counsel me saying that, okay, sometimes this happens and so on. I said, no, no, this is not correct. So Monday,
Hmm.
actually, this happened on a Friday. Monday, I called those people back. I personally apologized, though it
Wow.
was obviously not my own alone decision, personal. I personally apologized and asked them, "Can you please come back?" And they were, of course, happy and stuff like that. And their leader, the leader of that group, later on came and told me, "Yogesh, I am much elder than you. I know what you are doing, but you know something? If you had not done this today, by noon, all 50 of us were going to resign today because this is unfair." Yeah, people are let go and all that happens, but this was unfair, and you acknowledge that this was a wrong thing. And believe me, I was feeling terrible about calling those people
Yeah.
back, apologizing them personally, and saying
Yeah.
that can you please come back because it has to be restored because it was. I mean, I was leading that mistake. Whether
Hmm.
it was my decision, you can always get into hair splitting about who should be blamed for that wrong decision. But what is
Hmm.
important is to correct, know that you have done something wrong.
Awesome. What a story that must have been. And I'm sure those people are going to remember that day for the entire life. Of course, for good reasons.
I don't
Uh,
know, but at least
yeah,
it gave me a lot of peace.
yeah, yeah. No, wonderful. Last question. Finish the sentence. A CHRO who doesn't dash will never be credible.
CEO doesn't have integrity, will never be credible.
Okay, wonderful. Awesome. That brings me to the end of this rapid fire section. It's been an awesome section for sure. Last question for you, Yogesh sir. If you had to leave CHROs with one line for their credibility manifesto, what would it be? I think this is more like a summary of what all you have just narrated, but would love
I
to
don't,
know again.
I don't know whether I'm eligible to give advice to CHR or something, but I'll tell you what I believe about credibility. It's a very simple sentence: do what is right and not what is convenient. If you just follow
Hmm.
this theme, your credibility will never be touched. Do what is
Hmm.
right, not what is convenient.
Okay. I think with that awesome one-liner, I think you have pretty much summed up what today's episode of the CHRO Mindset podcast was all about. Trust me, we, like I earlier said, we haven't had the opportunity to talk to a senior HR leader with more than 3 decades of experience about a topic as poignant as this, because somewhere I feel there is no science behind this. Is more like an art, right? And it's also about uh, a heart-to-heart talk with oneself and also with the employees, which we rarely get to see these days. But uh, some of the things that you spoke of, whether it was about having a philosophy that should drive the North Star, it should be really simple. It should not be more than a sentence or two. Uh, get into fights where there is bitterness, but there is always this comparison between bad and bitterness. So that was another awesome takeaway for me. Be vulnerable, especially when you narrate stories. And walk the talk, like you said, right? Your day-to-day behavior must reflect how you are. Not It should be congruent with how one it is, right? Not be superficial with the language, which could be around politeness and all that. Uh, and of course, with integrity and transparency on the CHRO side, I think everything else sort of takes care of itself, right? It's been an amazing discussion so far, Yogesh sir. Thank you so very much for joining us. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about how to be a better human, right? As well as a CHRO, although I'm not in the CHRO function.
But you
But
are incredibly kind, Pulkit, in saying all these things. It was
no,
sheer
no,
joy talking to you. This was a very interesting topic. I must say
yeah.
that I have also never talked about this earlier. So all kudos to you, all credit to you for this.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
sir.
so much.
Thank you so very much. It was amazing. To all the audience out there, thank you for tuning into this episode of the CHRO Mindset podcast. If you happen to be listening this on Spotify, please make sure you leave us a review, a 4 or a 5 or a 3, whatever star rating you wish, right? And don't forget to subscribe us so that and next time our episode gets live, it pops up right in your mailbox or on your phone. Until our next episode, see you again. Take good care of yourself. Thanks again.